Hello and welcome back to devlog number 9. Been another good week of work on the project. Another quiet week as far as interviews go, but we're keep moving forward. So on Monday, I was working on getting the equip and unequip functionality working from the inventory, and I was able to get that working. There was some moving on to Tuesday. I put about 8 hours on Monday, but Tuesday there was some tricky bug with the IK not working. The animation wasn't working correctly. So basically, I had to dig into the Invector system and really track down what was going on. Was it the animation? Just really diving in and understanding how the system works and getting to the bottom of it. Turns out there was a bug with the Invector system. Like, there was a flag called is equipped. It was sending messages to add the IK positioning too early while the equip transition uh, was being performed. The unequip it would work, but right on the equip animation, his left hand would snap right to the point initially, and then snap back. So I added that and fixed that bug. Um, yeah, so the Invector system is not perfect by any means. You have to get in there and really understand how the whole thing's working, get under the hood, get grease on your hands, so to speak. So from then, I worked on auto equip from inventory, so I can set a flag and he'll start off unequipped, but it'll automatically equip the pistol from the inventory. So basically, I had to the equip from inventory is a little different because it instantly pulls out. He doesn't do the nice little equip transition animation. So I had to adapt that from auto equip from inventory. It took a little bit of work. The next um, functionality I decided to tackle was aiming because it was all off. There was something off. When you aim, it would always point in the this direction. I couldn't actually aim the way I wanted to. So doing a little system, looking at a little research, looking at the Invector system, looking at the demo, because they had a demo like a top-down, like where you'd move your mouse pointer and it would point to that direction. I wanted a kind of a twin stick shooter system where I could move around and aim in any direction, but also I could actually do engage the right thumbstick and point in direction and then kind of strafe in any direction that I wanted to. So getting that working took a little bit of doing. Was able to get it working correctly by adapting the rotation class. Just more work. I won't get into the specifics how I did it, but it's just more of the same, diving into code, adapting the classes, building your functionality on top of the existing classes. Um, so on Wednesday, Wednesday came around, I finally pulled the trigger on removing some of the legacy Invector input reads because I was having some issues getting the aiming to working. It wasn't quite working correctly, um, and I didn't want the two inputs interfering with the system. So now the Invector system is broken. So in order to analyze and test the demo controllers for Invector, um, I'll have to run that package in a clean project. That's just the way it is. I have to move on from that input because I want to move to all modern input action system with event-driven actions. So I removed that and I put all the other actions like aiming and shooting buttons and also left stick movement on the new system. So That's working. I still have to test if the VR controller issue is still going on with that. Hopefully not. I never did test if I removed the legacy system input, if that issue would go away, but I'll have to do that later. That's on the backlog. So got basic aim rotation working. Um, let's see. Fix fire the. Oh, there was an issue where his aim was a little off. It wasn't dead center, but that was just because for some reason the aim reference point rotation was out of alignment. When you turned, the gun would would kind of roll a little bit unnaturally, and then also his aim point for what he draw, it wouldn't be dead center. It would be off to the left a little bit. So I've got that figured out and fixed, no problem. Um, then the next functionality I tackled was putting in the shooting FX. I chose a different one from my FX packages, my VFX, and I decided to go with like a plasma pulse. Um, so now when you pull the trigger, I think it looks pretty good. He's doing shooting, and then you can strafe. I kind of did like there's a whole bunch of functionality in Vector about like clip size and reload animations work and all that. But I decided to put it just on an auto fire for now, and got it all set up. Fine-tuned the actual effects, the muzzle blast, so it's all looking good. Um, yeah, so I got it all looking good by the end of the day. And Thursday came around. I decided to implement the player damage, so I had to fix up the broken enemy tracking. Um, he was not there was something wrong with the prefab dependencies that I had to hook up again and get it working correctly. But once that was done, I I put a shield. I took the player's shield and adapted it to the robot. So now when you shoot the robot, it will it will do shield the shield effect, which I think is pretty cool. So added the same health controllers to shield. You shoot it enough, it'll go down, and then had to modify the collider to the mesh colliders in order for the. Okay, so he got yeah. So I hit him enough. So added health controller to the actual robot, and then had to look at the is dead transition and replaced it with my animation. The robot had an animation to kind of do this, like go to sleep, pretty much this animation, and then he's now in a dead state. Lastly, I added what you saw there. It was when he dies. I added some VFX explosions from that package. Add some grenade explosion effects that I added to him, and so he blows up spectacularly. At the very end of the day, I decided one more piece of functionality, try to get some sort of basic area nose cone detection working in the actual play mode, not just in the debug mode. That's what you see here. It's very basic. It matches the actual detection radius parameters. It's linked up. It's linked in. I want to do eventually get a nicer one, maybe like a transparent one that kind of like a sci-fi one, but that's gonna take some shader work. So I just put this basic one in there so far, and that was in the end of Thursday. So Friday, I kind of took a pivot. I kind of looked in my process, this whole process. I am getting faster and more efficient, and things are coming together quicker than they used to. Now that I understand the system's clearer and functionality is getting built at a good pace now. It's not such a grind to dig into these vector systems, which is good. But I'm still facing issues with my workflow efficiency. I've gotten good with Unity, but there's still some issues that are really kind of putting a lag on. And I've kind of identified several areas where I can actually fine tune my process and maybe get some tools to actually expedite, kind of the rote tasks I'm doing over and over and over again that's causing mental taxation. So I did a bunch of research on Friday and kind of looked at some tools like, what can I do here? So I first started looking at VS Code, and I wanted to figure out how I could do better file searches because I'm just doing string matching searches like a primitive basic, and that's good, but it gives you a lot of information you got to sift through. A lot of times I it gets the job done, but it's not as effective as a tool. So I figured out how to do better search by being able to search for like function names and then for keywords to be able to exclude certain folder paths in a more clear tree structure. I also enabled multiple tab rows so it wouldn't get cut off. I wouldn't have to scroll through and figure out where the file is. I also moved the debug window down to the bottom to optimize for space. Just a bunch of little tweaks to kind of, a bunch of little testing to kind of like, okay, if you want to do this, do it like this. Use Control P, and you can find a property name faster. So improving that process in VS Code, I took several steps to actually, really improve my workflow. Um, More research, I found a tool that would be a huge time saver called hot reloading. Basically, when you make a change in the code editor, you have to pretty much stop the application play, and you have to let the domain reload, and then you have to play it again. And this is for every single test. So it becomes very, very tedious. And I had to kind of do this when I was working on the uh, the the turret rotation problem. I was doing a lot of shooting in the dark, change a little code here, test it out, change a little code there, test it out, and every time you'd bounce back, and forth between the editor and Unity. It would, that time really starts to add up. So it's like a minute each time you test, and it's just very time consuming. You could really speed it up. So this tool, I tested and it works. It allows you to make changes in the editor on the update loop and see them reflected without having to stop the application while it's running and without having to reload the domain, which is a huge improvement. I think it's going to really boost, especially when I'm working on debugging a certain issue in code. I don't have to wait like a minute each time I test. I can really move at a faster pace. Now, you can't change the actual class interface structure, but um, that's fine. That's a small give. I just come back, when I add a property and it reloads into the edit inspector. That's fine. But to be able to like make changes while the program is running and see it reflected in real time, that's absolutely fantastic. That's going to be a huge time saver going forward. Um, so other things that another sore spot is doing tasks like I recognize like repeated processes over and over again. One of the big things was trying to find certain, I have little tricks like if there's a script, I can click it in here and it'll show up in the project window. But a lot of times there'd be a lot of folders open from clicking here and there all over the place, and I would end up just like continuously scanning through a huge list of open folders, trying to find the exact same folder every single time, usually the prefab folder or the scenes folder or the scripts folder in my game project, and it just wearing me down. So I bought a tool where you can actually, set specific icons to recognize, specific colors to recognize over and over again. And this tool allows you to kind of bookmark areas in your code. So you can just click a button and it'll open it right up. It's right there. You want to get to your scenes? There you go, right there. You don't have to kind of oh, I'm in this folder, I gotta kind of scan through this. The scanning really kills you mentally. Like, it takes time and it takes mental energy. If you can just set, bookmarks of your most often used or your favorites, that's a real time saver. So really worth the money for sure. Other tools like being able to customize your hierarchy, tools that you can actually customize your inspector better, get rid of the clutter. One of the cool things one of these tools do is when you're playing the application, you'd usually have to copy um, the actual changes, stop the app, and then paste it in order for the changes to take effect. Well, now you can just hit this button while it's playing. It'll save the current properties to that um, component when you stop it. That's a really convenient tool. So Invector has a lot of these nice little editor things like tabs and stuff, and you can actually get some packages that would actually allow you. Because this morning I was trying to figure out, okay, my game manager object's gonna get pretty big eventually. I want to be able to customize it with tabs and stuff. So I ended up reusing their stuff, which is fine. Um, but I had my eye on the Odin the Odin Inspector tool. Now this is like the full-fledged tool for like professional development. You can basically do any sort of customization you want to your inspector components. And I'm still diving into everything, all the functionality offers, but one of the cool things is like you can basically customize these windows even if you don't want to modify the underlying class dependencies with tags. So I can get it looking in any way I want for productivity and not have to worry about changing the underlying framework, the Invector framework, which is great. It has a lot of other great stuff, like you can do a lot of um, validation, like for prefabs. If it has a lot of dependencies, you can really spell it out in the inspector, like, hey, you got to add this or you got to do this. And it has other features as well. So like you can create nice little windows for like applying mass applying data to different scriptable objects. So very good tool. I think it'll come in handy for sure. It's good to have. Um, so other tools for free. I got some sticky notes you can place inside the scene and write it like open and closable like for it to do. You can place it in the scene while you're running, just so you can have like notes in the scene as well as notes in the inspector. Um, Another tool for free what I was looking for is a pivot rotation tool, which so the problem I was having before, one of these, the way the asset came for the robot, one of his internal his local rotations, they they were off, and it was really throwing off my ability to do a clean turret rotation. If you look, if you look, let's see if I can find it here. Spider. Um, at the local rotation. See how it's pointing down here? So this tool allows you to set up, override the actual route and reset the rotation orientation without modifying all the underlying child objects. So then you can, doing it manually, everything gets messed up. But this allows you to. So if I had this tool before, I could have solved my rotation issue instead of having to calculate in my code the actual offset position, which I didn't really understand. So that'd be a good tool to have in the future. So a lot of tools, research, a lot of testing of new tools, improving my workflow process. Did about 10 hours today, so really working on this. And I think I'll have a good process going forward to really hammer out some good features and functionality coming up in the future. I kind of want to get in, maybe do a shader course so I can really nail down my understanding of shaders in order to do, because I did the shield shader watching tutorial, but I'll have to figure out how to do a nice nose cone shader again. So VFX work, doing VFX work is almost like a skill in itself with everything else you need to know for game development. But um, one of the things was when I was firing the laser, I wanted to do start doing. Um, I wanted to do sound effects for the enemy shooting laser and for the player, but I have to buy a sound effects pack for that. So um, basically, next week the next leg is working more on enemy AI stuff, kind of adding more features like the nose cone, but also kind of doing a random look around when he's on patrol. Also, when he sees you, maybe he does a different animation, moves faster on chase, and when he loses you, kind of instead of going directly back to patrol, but I want him to kind of move to the last known position. Also, maybe like a time to alert. Like if he sees you, he's not sent to his alert chase state right away. There's a little bit of a buffer period. After that, more work on the player, like adding different types of weapons, maybe an assault rifle, um, maybe stealth duration, things like that. So there's also an issue around detection when he goes into cover, and also issues where he's not really shooting properly around corners. So there's some work to be done there for sure. But that's all for another time. Thanks for tuning in, listening about the ongoing progress, and I hope you have a nice day. Thanks. Bye.